Good evening, and welcome to another edition of Tell the Truth and Shame the Devil. I'm Jenny Bernard, your host. As always, we really do appreciate you being a part of this program. You can catch me each and every day, Monday through Friday, from 5 to 6 p.m. You know what we do here. We talk business, legal, social, but most of all, political. Welcome in. Tell a friend to tell a friend that Tell the Truth and Shame the Devil is on the air. Well, if you want to call in, I have a very special guest in the studio with me today. And I've been telling you all last week, that he would be here today. And guess what? He's here live and, as they say, in living color. And I am looking forward, ladies and gentlemen, to talking to my guest, Joe B. Kent. And I've been watching him on Facebook and other spots that he's putting information out, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to switch over here and we're going to welcome him in. But most of all, for you, remember to subscribe to this program. And we really do appreciate you. Joe, welcome into the show.
Well, thank you for having me. And I sent you a text. Do you go by Pastor or Dr. Bernard?
Oh no, I'm just Jennings Bernard.
Okay.
Look, those careers are over with
Yes, sir.
and retired from, and now I'm just Jennings Bernard.
Well, that works too. That
All
works
right.
too. Well, I'm just Joe, so
Okay, Joe.
that's fine.
Joe, glad to have you here today. We appreciate you, and I've been telling my audience that you would be here,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been posting things that you have sent to me and things that I was looking at out there on the internet, and saw what you were doing. It was very interesting. And if we can get more people like you, myself, and others who are concerned about what's going on in this city, I believe this city would be a better city to live in as it relates to leadership and the people that we are electing. I'm going to give you the microphone. I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell the people who you are and what you've been doing, and then we'll get into some questions back and forth.
Sure. So, again, my name is Joe B. Kent. I'm from here originally. I grew up here in Memphis. Graduated from University of Memphis. Guarded Elvis's grave when I was in college. Uh, as a part-time job. Had to awake the cleaning staff at 1 a.m. by knocking on that Delta's window to let the cleaning staff in for the next day's tours. Made the best grades I ever made because of that job, because I'd study at nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked here for a while, moved to Nashville, back to Memphis, and then got in career education, workforce development, traveled the country doing um, career education, education reform, educational transformations, and then came back here around 2015, looking for. Well, I was told there was a need for career and workforce development here,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and so I put my services out for up, and I knew how to do what needed to be done. There wasn't a lot of people in the country that really know how to do this, about 10 people. Well, I didn't get the business, and I didn't think anything about it, that I didn't get the business. I just thought, I put a lot of energy in it. I just thought I lost the deal,
Mm-hmm.
which I've lost deals in numerous times before. And the deal didn't deliver. This is basically trying to connect the educational system with employer demand, occupational demand, curriculum alignment, things like that. Well, I didn't get the deal, and so I watched and so they gave the deal. This was back with one of their failed workforce development initiatives that failed, the Greater Memphis Alliance for Competitive Workforce, that was done by the chamber. Now, the chamber is a real big problem here locally. They're really bad at really economic development and things like that. But anyway, so the deal failed. They gave it to a Canadian company
Mm-hmm.
that I'd never heard of, and so it didn't deliver. And again, I wasn't bitter, but when the deal didn't deliver, I just did what I did in other places, and I just put my stuff up and said, "Hey, look, you got a problem here. They didn't deliver. I can help you out." Blah blah blah. and they kicked me out, and they wouldn't do business with me. The chamber kicked me out for no reason without giving me any bylaws. And at that point in time, that's when I went public. It's my hometown. I said, this is crazy what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody gets kicked out of their own chamber without having their copy of the member bylaws. You can get a copy of the member bylaws for the Charlotte chamber off the internet. I mean, and they're the fastest growing probably city in the southeastern United States. But anyway, they, so at that point in time, I started saying, what's going on here with taxpayer, as far as, if this unfair thing that I've experienced is working for the community, I guess they have a defense. Well, I started looking at the data, and really, taxpayers are being ripped off here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a public taxpayer advocate, probably around 2018, and been doing it ever since. And, doesn't pay anything, doesn't pay well, I can tell you that. Yeah, I feel a sense of purpose, and I think as long as we're educating people, I mean, I think that's the key right now. I mean, I think that's why what you do,
Mm-hmm.
your show is so important, is because the press, the traditional media is not, and what we'll talk about tonight,
Right.
the press is not reporting any of this stuff. They are not reporting any of this stuff. And the only way that you turn a city around is actually educating the public. If they're uneducated and ignorant, and when I'm saying ignorant, I'm not talking about poor people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about educated people that don't know what the hell's going on, are not getting know what's going on to where they can actually have impact locally. So anyway,
Well, all right. Let's get into this method like gas and water. And I've seen things that you have gotten video. You've gone before the council. I've seen uh, the city council chair uh, dealing with the method like gas and water, and he was frustrated to the point that he just decided that he had some urgent business to come up before he can dialogue with the people. Now, you're down at the council. You know if you got some business that come up, you were there to serve, but then evidently something came up that he did not want to, in my opinion, to talk about. That's the way I look at it. Tell the people who he was and what that was all about.
are you talking about Chase
Yeah,
Carlisle?
Church call out.
Okay, so Chase Carlisle is I would call him an educated person. He's very educated, but he's kind of, to say he's the budget chair.
Okay.
You had only three people go down to the council, and I was actually coming back from out of town, so I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't down there that night. Three ladies went before council to raise concerns about the MLGW budget, with the tree trimming budget being a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And Chase Carlisle, who's the budget chair, completely blasted them for actually protesting the budget. And and then says that the counselors had private meetings with MLGW, as if those private meetings, off the record, are supposed to be sufficient to replace public on the record oversight. And it's just, when he said that, I just realized, it made me believe he was really just very limited and stupid to say something like that. And then keep in mind, Chase Carlisle's brother is the one that got a $30 million lease grant from the city for the Sheraton Hotel.
Okay.
So you have to wonder, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. And so what this had to do with was, I had been writing about raising concerns about what I assert is $100 million tree trimming ripoff.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all the data to back that up, back that assertion. Well, let me say this. I've modified the $100 million assertion down to $56 million, to 56 to $73 million. And that's based on me trying to work with Doug McGowan. I'm basically saying, okay, Chief McGowan, is there anything else I need to consider? And he says, yes, we cut more 3 miles in the 1,400 miles. We had overgrowth. I said, okay, I got that for 23, 24, and 25. And then we also have more backyards than they do in Nashville and in Knoxville. And so I did all that, and I did that math, and we're still at a rip-off of between 56 and $73 million. So I used the Chief McGowan's data in my argument to try to see his point of view, and we're still at 56 to $73 million tree trimming rip-off for scheduled rip-off for 2026 through 2028. So that's where we are.
All right. Now, I understand you went down and you met with the CEO of McGowan,
Mhm.
and you had a conversation with him today. What was that about?
Well, I didn't. Well, I went down to MLG&W today to do public comment. I didn't. It wasn't a meeting, sit down meeting with Chief McGowan, but he was there, and so I went over some things that he put on the record at the city council meeting when the budget was before the council, and the things that he said were like, um, that we had historic uh, under investment in capital maintenance here at MLG&W, historic, going back decades and decades and decades. In other words, the reason we got to spend all this money now is because it wasn't spent in the past. And the fact is, so when somebody says that, and it doesn't have to be MLG&W, it can be anybody. You you say, okay, that explains it if it's real, but nobody ever checks it out.
Right.
Well, I checked it out. And the way you check that out is something called a capital spend to depreciation ratio. And our capital spend, when benchmarked against with other utilities, was a little bit above average. So we as ratepayers had adequately spent on the grid, had adequately invested for years and years and years before McGowan was there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the fact that we had a failing grid and had spent adequately before McGowan was there points to a corrupt public contract environment before McGowan was there.
Okay.
So I'm not debating that the grid was a mess before Chief McGowan, and I have nothing personal at all against Chief McGowan.
Right.
You can see he's a very good communicator. He's a he's a professional. He's had some military background. I don't have anything personally against him, but you know, so he inherited a failing grid. I got that, but it wasn't because we as ratepayers hadn't spent enough money to actually have a stable good grid. And so anyway, so that's one of the things. Another thing he said is that the annual compliance audit that they do every year would pick up on excessive tree trimming costs,
Okay.
or he implied that. And that's I guess it's possible, but wholly unlikely. And here's an example. MATA had audits for years and years and years, and they didn't pick up on any of that stuff that was found in the forensic audit. They didn't pick up on any of that stuff. So the idea that a compliance audit is going to pick up on excessive cost in certain sectors is just a misplaced argument. Um, he also said that um, the what else did he say? On the tree trimming, I've basically covered that. He said that you know he said 37% backyards. I've got that all figured in. Whereas Nashville's got 20% backyards, which are more expensive to cut, and Knoxville's 5%. So I've got all that figured in. We're still at 56 to $73 million tree trimming ripoff. And then I forgot the other thing he said. It'll
Okay.
come to me in a minute.
All right. You're listening to Tell the Truth and Shame the Devil. My guest is Joe Kent, community activist and a individual who really concerned about what's going on in the city of Memphis, who decided to go and research and investigate certain things. And I've noticed, ladies and gentlemen, some of the things that he was saying. But at the end of the joke, are we looking at misappropriation of money, whether it be Memphis by gas and water?
Well, here's the other thing he said that now it's coming to me.
Okay.
And this was probably the most shocking thing that he said on the record. Doug McGowan challenged the public. He said all of the the RFPs, the contracts, bid summaries, bid responses, all of that stuff was available for public review. Now this is about, well, it's 2 weeks ago when he said that.
Mm-hmm.
He said it, and I believe before that, but he really challenged the public. If you got questions, ask us. Well, I asked for that information, and I still don't have it. So I don't understand why he went out of his way to challenge the public, to ask him for information, and now still doesn't have, and it's not available. So, um, I mean, the tree. So to examine, so to call it misappropriation, um, the MLGW's defense is they did a fair legal bid process. My argument, okay, let's, but you have a corrupt public contract culture here.
Okay.
So there's things that I believe happen. Like I'll give you an example. Not too long ago, and this was reported in the Daily Memphian. They had a bid for cleaning the airport. There was two bids. One was $20 million for, no, this is a 5-year bid. One was $20 million. The other one was $10 million. Okay.
Okay.
They awarded the contract to the $20 million cleaning company. Now, you know, I don't know what you call. They had a fair bid process. I don't know what you call that, but something's wrong there. Um, the fact that we're paying so much more on a per mile basis for tree trimming services after a fair bid process, still there's something wrong. Like one of the questions that did not get asked. Now I asked the MLGW Board of Commissioners and I asked the City Council to ask Doug McGowan this question on the record. And here it is. It is why are tree trimming costs going up from 2025 cost of 35.5 million to 39 million in 2026 when there is no accelerated overgrowth cut need? In other words, accelerated cut need would be trimming more than 1,400 miles, which is the standard in a 3-year cycle, and also having to deal with overgrowth because the trees haven't been cut. All of the overgrowth and the accelerated cutting was done between 2023 and 2025. So we're done. We don't have overgrowth. We just got to start trimming trees.
Okay.
Why would cost be more in 2026 than it was in 2025 when we had accelerated cutting and overgrowth? It makes no sense. Doug McGowan has no rational answers to that question. None. And they would not ask that question. So, you know, that doesn't make any sense. So anyway, the scheduled rip off right now, if that contract pays out, is between 56, depending on uh, some variables related to backyard clearing, between 56 and $73 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're listening to Tell the Truth and Shame the Devil with my guest, Joe Kent is in the studio. If you would like to ask him any questions, feel free to give us a call, 901-288-5779. Again, 901-288-5779. When you have people that are concerned about this city, as I said earlier, myself and Joe and others out there that are raising the question, when you go before the council, like what you're saying, then they either gonna cut you off on your time, uh, and you ask for more time, they want you to just cut it off. My question to you is that when you go down to the council or you go to the county commission, how do you feel when you're sitting there or you there asking questions, and it seems like you have the attitude of the chairman of the budget committee, Carlisle? What do you say to that after you look and see as though he was really disturbed and upset on the video that I saw because those individuals there wanting answers? What do you say to that, Joe?
Were you asking
Yeah,
me?
yeah,
Okay. I
yeah.
thought you were asking on the answer.
Uh-huh.
Um, well, I mean, you know, one of the things that he said was, he said, and then he goes to this thing and says all the council worked really hard on the MLGW budget. Uh, the only thing that we were asking them to critically examine, we weren't even asking them to examine the entire MLGW budget.
Hmm.
We were asking them to examine one line item, and that was had to do with tree trimming,
Okay.
and they didn't do it. I mean, if you look at the MLGW budget, it's I mean, it's probably 1,000 lines. So I mean, I get that they didn't go over everything with a fine tooth comb because the MLGW board commissioner's supposed to do that. They're supposed to be going through that. They didn't do it either. So the fact that they didn't do it, okay, we have another chance to catch it now with the city council. Well, they would refuse to do it too. So the fact that Chase Coleman would sit there and say that the council worked hard on the MLGW, it's just, I mean, it's completely asinine. I mean, I don't know.
Well, when you look at it overall and the things that are happening uh, when it comes to our elected officials, when you look at the fact that Paul Young came into it, that was a $77.7 million deficit
Yeah.
that he has not addressed as of now, but yet they go out and buy a hotel. Here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the same thing seems strange, but now you're saying Carolina relative uh, got a $30 million
Yeah.
contract. See,
Chance Carlisle, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So a couple of things about that. So there's, all right. So the MLGW, I mean, we can come back. I mean, whenever you want to do as far as coming back to
Right.
that or not. I mean, it's just one example. I mean, it's not. I mean, if it was just, and here's the disservice to the public on the MLGW thing. That story went viral, and the idea that we've had no reporting from the traditional media on it. I'm not saying that they should report it like me. I call it a conspiracy. And keep in mind, I am, as a taxpayer advocate, you have to be a conspiracy theorist. I am a real conspiracy theorist. And the fact that, and I report it as a conspiracy, the fact that the traditional media, I'm talking about Fox 13, ABC 24, WREG, 5, talking about Daily Memphian commercial, the fact that this tree trimming thing has not been reported, at least as a controversy,
Hmm.
at least as a controversy, questions raised, controversy, is a disservice by the traditional media here in Memphis.
Right.
But the other thing, and which is really why what we're doing here is so important. So the other things that are coming up now that I've been covering is the Accelerate Memphis, which they can't account for, which I'll talk about. It's $200 million they can't account for, and the city of Memphis, and then also MATA, which has been a cover up, which they had a good report yesterday. So if what's going on, what they reported is really happening at MATA, that's going to be good news. So they finally actually reported something good about MATA's turnaround. But why we have an imploded transit system that we should never have had,
Hmm.
that is not being covered by the media. They're not asking questions about it, and we need to find out because I want to tell a story of why they imploded MATA, which I can get into some of that too. It's not because they bought a Grizzly suite downtown and that the car mall and spent some money on credit cards. That's not the reason it imploded. which I can talk about. But as far as the hotel goes, and let me say this, the elitist, which I consider, the Punt families of Memphis, which are the very wealthy, like Pitt Hydes and all these people and all those people, they have a lot of power here locally, and the and the local development communities, like you have downtown, you have Henry Turley, you have the Wilsons, they're down there. You have the Carlisles, these people. Our city, this is pretty sick now. Our city worked really, really, really hard to run three international investors out of town. These are people that came to Memphis to invest in Memphis.
Mhm.
Three international investors. The first one, and I think you'll remember this, Jennings,
Mhm.
is Hard Rock. Hard Rock was trying to put a hotel down on Beale Street. They had a deal. A friend of mine named Paul Gagliano wrote a thing in Just Mine. I'll send you that piece. He
Okay.
knows all about that. And they were going to have a full service hotel on Bill Street with a guitar shaped hotel, a guitar shaped pool overlooking Bill Street. They were excited. Hard Rock was excited about that. Strickland and them run them out of town. Now that was going on when they were trying to build the Grand Hyatt down there on Bill Street, and they were trying to say that should be the convention center hotel, which is a mile away from there.
Hmm.
So they ran them out of town. Hard Rock said, "Okay, you don't want us, fine," and then they took the restaurant out of town. Then, then, so then we have the Sheraton downtown. Well, they drug their feet on that. Now, keep in mind, those people bought that hotel down there for $45 million, and they came and I guess the investors were assuming the two, which were Schulte and Starwood, they were assuming, oh, they're spending $200 million on their hotel. The city's going to have to prioritize the convention hotel that's physically connected to the hotel for renovation. So when they came here to do that, they didn't prioritize the Sheraton. They started talking about Lowe's and all this other stuff and completely scuttled the business model of those other people, of Starwood and Schulte. And then they shut the trolley down and did all this stuff. Well, guess what? Schulte and Starwood at some point they just said, "Look, we give up. We can't make it work here." And they ran them out of town and got the hotel for $22 million that the taxpayers had to pay for. $22 million plus $8 million for engineering and whatever else they got going on, some interest costs and everything. $30 million that the the local taxpayer had to belly up to so that local developers, local connected developers could control and profit from the downtown convention center hotel. We had to pay $30 million.
Hmm.
Otherwise we wouldn't have to pay anything. It cost us $30 million so Chance Carlisle can have control of the downtown Sheraton Hotel. That's crazy.
It's very much crazy. This is the type of stuff that we see that's happening every day, not only on the city side, the county side. When we speak of the county for a minute here, uh, I did a show yesterday and we were listening to a program called Informed Sources.
Uh-huh.
And they had the chairman, Avant, of the county commission, and they had
McRae.
Mick Wright. And they was basically talking about having a shortfall at the term they use
Mm-hmm.
in regard to having to take, as I say, from Peter to pay Paul. They got to go into the rainy day fund
Mm-hmm.
and try to get $43 million out to make sure they can cover it until they get, as they would say, their payment, their check come January 1st for the property tax. And
Right.
then they said they could put the money back. To me, in my opinion, if I ran my household, or if you ran your household, taking from Peter to pay Paul, that's bad business. And that says to me that the people who we elect are not astute enough or smart enough to know how to run this city. What is happening to, in your opinion, to the money that they give them to run the city or the county for that fiscal year, and then you come up to the point that you have a shortfall with the money that you was given to run it for that fiscal year, and now you can't run it. You got to go into the rainy day fund. What is your opinion?
Well, there's without question, there's going to be problems with expenditures, or questionable public expenditures. You can go and look at some of that. But I want to tell you, and this is my next blog. It's coming out. It'll be out Monday.
Okay.
The problem is there's a legitimate revenue issue problem here locally. So when the city's talking about, oh, we're not getting in revenues like we forecasted, there is top line pressure on Memphis and Shelby County versus other cities because we we are losing employment. So all the people that are paying taxes are going to the store and paying real property taxes, and are either leaving or they're not working and able to go to the store. Those tax revenues are down. And this is what's going to be the focus on this. And again, people are asking why they can't, why Mick Wright and Commissioner Avant or Chair Avant, why they can't do their jobs. Well, one of the reasons they can't do their jobs is because, well, they've had the opportunity to have the data, but they've rejected. I've tried to do business with them. They don't want the data. They would rather sit there and be stupid to the data. The reality is that the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Growth Engine, EDGE, have done a destructive job on the local economy. It's entirely destructive. I mean, you have, on one hand, you have tanking employment versus other cities, and this is going to be a big blog coming out, and I'll have all the data and everything. Tanking employment versus other cities, and you're also giving massive tax abatements that are excessive versus other cities. So uh, we give about $80 million a year out in tax abatements every year, city and county. Well, they'll come, Edge will say, well, other cities do that. They give tax abatements, and say, yeah, but they don't give like we do. I mean, like Nashville has like 50 tax abatements. We've got 500. Now this I can prove all of this. This is not me making up stuff. It's in the state control report. You can pull the control. Anybody can pull the control report off and just count the number of pilots there are. Tax abatements, pilots, payment in lieu of taxes.
Right.
With payment in lieu of taxes, that's the payment. The abatement is how much we surrender in taxes we don't get. And we have like 500, and Nashville has 50. Knoxville has about 50. Chattanooga has about 35. We got 500. And so that's all of this revenue they're going to developers, major corporations, and everything like that. And so Regina Newman commented, it's interesting that our deficit is about what the county abates of the 80 million a year is about what the county abates in taxes, which is $43 million. That was an interesting comment by Trustee Regina Newman. But anyway, I mean, so I am writing a blog that's going to blame the revenue shortfalls. Really, it needs to be blamed. The city council and county commission need to be blamed, but it's going to be really the people that are authoring this idiotic economic development stuff is the chamber, Greater Memphis Chamber of Commerce, and Edge. And the people like Ted Townsend has been in charge of Edge, of the chamber president for a while. You have Duncan Williams coming in as chairman of the board. And then Al Bright has been over the Edge board for basically since it began. And then you have Joanne Massey, who's the executive director or president, whatever they call her.
Well, let me ask you this now. When we look at the county and we talk about the shortfall And we look at that's two different uh, scenarios that's going on. They talk about we need a new jail, we need a better hospital. They, from reports I got, that they're moving forward and already set up money for the hospital that's going to be built on the old commercial pill lot.
Mhm.
Now, if you're taking from Peter to pay Paul, and you are advancing and getting this started to build a new hotel, a hospital, and now you want to also build a new jail with those funds. To me, if you're taking money from Peter to pay Paul, where are you going to get this money from other than from the taxpayer? And Avance, the chairman, was saying, hey, we haven't raised taxes uh, on property in 20 years.
Well, that's well, I mean, that's I'm kind of the reason I'm talking about this. I mean,
Hmm.
by the time all this stuff hits the agenda, it's too late.
Right.
And so they're constantly, I mean, what's supposed to happen at a county commission, city council meeting is they're supposed to be critically evaluating the number one job of the city council and county commission is budget development and creation and oversight of that budget.
Okay.
And they're just not doing their job. And so one of the things I do as taxpayer advocate is point out how they don't do their job in any of those areas. And what ends up happening is taxpayers ended up paying the bill all the time, and they're working toward that all the time. One of the things that's out there that I don't know if it's going to come up. Sometimes I think that with the perfect storm, they might talk about consolidation. That means city and county government consolidating, and there might be some meaningful reduction in expenditures, although studies show that it's not going to reduce things that much.
Hmm.
But anyway, that's one argument out there, and as a practical matter, I prefer consolidated government. I think, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good thought. It's really good, more efficient, potentially more efficient. There are things that are good about it. So I'm in favor of that directionally. But look, here's the thing. If the same Punt families, if local government allows the same Punt families of Memphis to rip off that consolidated government like they have the city county government, we're going to be in the same place. I mean, you have people like out at the zoo, like they have these managed agreements. One of the things I've been working on with City Councilwoman Sutton is on this, having transparency and oversight of managed agreements. And those managed agreements are things like the Brooks Art Museum. It's the things like Memphis River Parks Partnership. It's like the zoo, where these organizations get all this money and then they come back and you think they're okay, we set you up with some prime assets, so that we don't have to spend more money, and they come back and ask for more and more
More
money.
money. Yeah.
And you have people at the zoo who are talking about, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, about all the money we spent on the riverfront. All the MRPP stuff. The MRPP is in last financials, they were in debt because they didn't, all this money they were supposed to raise from the private sector, all the, our most generous city, we're not in a generous city. They got all the money from the public, then they didn't raise the money they said they were going to do on the private side. And so MRPP is in debt right now. Um, and so I've been working with um, Yolanda Sutton, Counselor Sutton, on this, having transparency related to these agreements so everybody understands what's going on with them. And to make sure that they do their part, the private sector does their part, they come to us and say, hey, if you put in this amount of money, we'll raise this much money. And then they don't raise the money. Um, but anyway, like at the zoo, I mean, if you listen to the zoo was financially reckless with their their expenditures went up since 2019, like 120 something percent. It's crazy how much money they've been spending out there. Well, one of their projects is they, with all the needs in the city, you hear about the zoo wanting to build $100 million elephant sanctuary. Now, this is what these people think about all the time. They're just not, they're not connected to reality, to civic reality in any way.
Hmm.
I mean, so what I'm saying is, okay, you consolidate city county government, and these people come and ask you for $100 million elephant sanctuary. If you give it to them, you're going to be back in the same place, guys. You can't listen to these idiots. I mean, if you think, oh, consolidation is going to be a silver bullet, and we're going to say yes to $100 million elephant sanctuaries, you know, you're so you have to know the city council. And I'm speaking about Commissioner David Bradford right now. I mean, Commissioner David Bradford has to know, when he's dealing with an idiot or not. I mean, if somebody comes and says, with all needs, we want
Wow.
to build $100 million elephant sanctuary, you you know you're dealing with an idiot. But anyway, I mean, I get so frustrated with it. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off on
Oh, well, no problem. Hey, I appreciate you coming in and being a part of this program and laying out some things as it relates overall about Memphis like gas and water. And I always, back in the day, used to say Memphis like gas and robbery. People are feeling that now. They're feeling that something is not right down there with Memphis like gas and water. And history has shown that when it comes to politicians, and money in some cases, not in all, but in some cases, you're gonna find misappropriation. Uh, and to me, I'm seeing people not really thinking or qualified to think and to run the city and county government. And because of that, we as taxpayers, in my opinion, are suffering because of the people that we're putting in office that's not qualified to lead or know how to lead. What is, in your opinion, well, how do we do that? They talked about recall, and I know that probably ain't gonna pass in Nashville because if you say a recall and the people can recall you, it would make them do a better job because they know they can be recalled. But I think when it comes down to 2026 next year, this is the opportunity, Joe, for us to make a change in local government, get people in office that understand budgeting, understand finance, understand how to be a good representative. And in our community, when I say in our community, we are falling short of getting the necessary things that need to be done in our community. But you go to East Memphis, you go to other parts of the city, and as I often say, the roads are smoother than the baby's behind. But at the same time, you go to South Memphis, North Memphis, we are suffering when it comes to getting the adequate things we need done by our representatives in this community. So when you look at it overall, I think it comes back down to getting qualified people to understand that we can't do two things at one time. We cannot build a hotel and then want to build a jail. How can you do that when you're broke?
it. Right. Yeah. And well, you're asking me what's the solution? Well, a recall, I can tell you whatever they pass on a recall. If you want to recall somebody, at the end of the day, maybe that helps, but whatever that process is will be it won't be an easy process.
Hmm.
So that will be it's kind of like, you know, Wanda Halbert. Now, I'm going to say this about Wanda.
Okay.
I think Wanda's been overcovered. I think she's been bullied by the press. I think I think she has uh, data that showed that there were some things going on before she took office that needed to be uncovered and investigated that didn't happen. So I think she has something there. And that's just my suspicion. On the other hand, she's not necessarily a great administrator. So if you're going to take on the system like she tried to do, you've got to be a good administrator. On the other hand, keep in mind we've been, so there's a A lot of people wanted Wanda Howard out of office. I thought a lot of wasted energy went toward that. And, I mean, Wanda try to do a better job, and let's Wanda Howard. I don't think Wanda Howard. I really don't. I
Mhm.
don't think Wanda would try to do a better job. But all this energy that went into running her, trying to run her out of office, was really a lot of wasted time.
Well, let me say this to
Y-
you as
y-
well when it comes to Wonder Hammer, and when you brought it up, I remember sources telling me when we was talking about that people couldn't get their tags. Uh, they're saying that the tags was sitting on the dock. The money had already been given to the county mayor or whoever to send those tags out, but the money was used for something else. Uh, they told me that they wanted them to give the money again when they used the money for something else. And it came from a reliable source, but everybody was jumping on Miss Hammer because they wasn't getting their tags, and there was a reason why
mhm.
they was not getting their tags. And I just wanted to throw that out. I've talked about that uh, numerous times in regard to Wanda Hammer and her administration of that office. If you pay somebody to take care of sending the tags out and they don't do it, then it's not her fault.
Mhm.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I appreciate you coming in and being a part of it. Anything else you want to add to this
Well,
conversation?
yeah, the only thing I was going to add is so you're asking, so the recall process would
Mm,
be, or running somebody out of office is going to be a very hard process. It's either going to be legal entanglements or it's going to be a major petition thing. So how do you get, I've often said election day is overrated. And the reason, sure, we can try to elect better people, but nothing gets passed on election day. Somebody gets elected. When legislation is passed, it's in chambers. So the way I see that things get better is the taxpayer is more informed and they're more active in public chambers. That is the way that I think things get better. And shows like yours, actually, Jennings, I think that this is absolutely critical, given we have a deficient local media and press here locally. You've got people like you've got to fill the gap, and I'm glad you're doing it. So thank you very much.
well, I appreciate you and your efforts. And when I looked out here and saw what you was talking about, I said, I got to get this guy in. I got to talk to him. And we began to communicate. And we want you to know that anytime you want to shoot something to me, feel free to do it. If you want to come and be a part of this show, if you know someone that got some information that need to be put out here to the public, hey, feel free to give me a call. You got my number. You can give me a call, and we're gonna work together to try to make this place where we live a better place. And we can only do it at one individual at a time, stepping up to the plate. And I believe, and everybody saying, "Well, Jenny, you say all of them need to go." I said, "You tell me one that needs to stay," and then they go looking at me real crazy.
Well, I mean, I like working with the Yolanda Sutton. They're beating her up today on the
Mm,
rape thing, but
right.
on a remark. But I mean, I like working with her. I think she's sincere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there are people down there that want to do good work. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, Doug McGowan to me is a professional that I think wants to do the right thing sometimes, but he has to contend and operate in a corrupt public contract culture. So he ends up having to do goofy stuff. But no, there's some down there. I like working. I had a really good experience working with Counselor Sutton, so I'm really glad about that.
Yeah, but the problem I have too. We go back for a quick second before we get off the air. You want to talk about things that passed as it relates to the city council. To me, Elon Musk and that supercomputer.
Mm.
To me, that was the craziest thing that they could ever done. There was those on the city council that didn't want to go with it, but when you talk about J.B. Smiley being the chairman at the time, wanted it to come through. I'm very suspicious when people were beat up or as a chairman on individual who has the right to represent their district, and you silence the individual microphone, and then you go and 100%. I'm not one person that said no. I'm going to represent and I'm going to take care of my constituents. I'm going to vote no. They wanted the majority of the council, which they got the full majority to vote to put that there. We found out later it was supposed to be 15 turbines working over there. Found out it was 30.
Mm-hmm.
So they were pretty much doing what they want to do because they gave them. And this is something that threw me. Before he even got approval, he was over there working and building. How did Elon Musk know that he could come in and just start working without getting the approval from the health department and other agencies that he needed?
Yeah.
That says to me, money talk, and you know what walks.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I'm saying we're not in a position that we got strong enough representatives to stand up and say, listen, you all can vote the way you want to vote, but for voting for my constituents, this is being placed in my area. I'm voting no. But
Yeah.
they pressure individuals to go along with them, in my opinion. And that's where we end up. We can go on and talk about the different things in this community that our representatives should have known better. But it's politics at its best, 101 in Memphis, Tennessee. Hey, I appreciate you coming in and being part of us today. And like I said, at any time you feel that you want to come by, just let me know, and we'll do this all over again.
You ain't far.
All right.
It only takes me 10 minutes to get here, so I'll be back.
All right, we definitely do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you listening. As always, I want you to subscribe to this program and also go to the website. And that website is memphisrealtalk.com. memphisrealtalk.com. You can see this show and other shows that have been recorded on the website. And we will be doing month by month, putting past shows over there for your enjoyment. And when you get over there, you'll see the donation button. You'll see what we're trying to do. If you'd like to make a donation, no matter small or large, feel free to do that. Because we're going to keep doing what we do. And that's why this program is called Tell the Truth and Shame the Devil. In the words of my grandmother, she used to always say, if it's the Lord's will, and the creek don't rise, we'll see you on tomorrow. And always remember what I said. I said, trust everyone, but do not trust the devil inside of them. Take care. God bless. Appreciate you, Joe, for coming in and being with us today.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. We're going to shut everything down here.